Hey everybody, hope you're having a good day. It's Wednesday and we're going to continue our catch playthrough on, of course, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Sorry, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is still on our playthrough. We have done this for over 4 months. We're about to hit the 5th. Anyway, from our last one left, and that's actually doing it because we're doing both 1 and 2, by the way. So when we last left off, we had just finished up the trial. It is basically the trial finished due to unforeseen circumstances due to a faint of a witness, so we're kind of just moving on from there. With the camera and his last bow, so we're in the investigations part 2 side, so we'll just go from there. So 2nd November, 3:38 PM, Shum's Suite. Sweet start. I still can't quite believe what just happened. I know, I'm quite weird with the battle after the court session was adjourned, and it seems Mr. Fergal was taken to hospital to recover. Right. 10 years ago now, Mr. Fergal attempted to commit suicide by jumping out the window of the prison governor office. But ever since then, he completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. No one knew his secret. Not his family, not even the man himself. But I forced it out into the open. Is it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark? I wonder. Bruno! Oh, Iris! You were miles away. Anyway, I brought a fresh pot of some soothing tea for you. Oh, thank you. You and Susie had an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh! Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back into the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared. Oh no! I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, "I must leave." I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Grayson's death. Well, you know who he's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. For the construction of the solution... Sorry, if the construction of a solution comes after the expense of the destruction of something else. Oh, I'm doing something. What does that mean? You notice very well that when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he can't just take his own... Yeah, but he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important to him. That's so true. But that's what I like about Huey after all. I suppose there's a lot of great detective in some ways. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Oh? You have time, Iris? Yes, I finished this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You know, I always said Hughie's feel in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Or Mr. Jones? I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible are you? Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan for action before we continue our investigation. I think there's much we can do here. I think everything's still, yeah, everything's going to be the same, so we don't need to do any extra investigation here. So, how did it go in court this morning? Well, we still don't know the truth of what really happened, but one thing's increasingly clear. Lord Fancy definitely didn't do it. Oh, goody! Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts, in fact. Oh, sorry, as well. Oh, really? And there's another development. There was another development too. Asima. Yes, it's quite clear now. Akasuma-sama is not himself. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed. No, I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Virgo's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder. I really need to sit down with Cosma and try to understand what he's going for. If Grayson was really murdered the day before his body was discovered, then Lord Van Six has to be innocent, you see? What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out by examining the corpse, surely. Yes, you would expect so. But curiously, no time of death was included in the Allspy report. That is curious. There are still some there are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Seek, though, aren't there? Do you mean? I mean, what was he doing there on Fensu Street that day in the first place? Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Grayson, didn't he? And it turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office. Ooh, that's like it has all the makings of a wonderful, devilish plot. But then, why was the notice board there all covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this. Oh dear. That sounds more like something horribly devilish. We must start by looking into Inspector Grayson's movements of late. I never imagined I have to be investigating an inspector's movements. Well, according to the entry in the diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the red-headed lady the day before his death. Oh! You mean he was doing the same thing as Hui? Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating. I do wish I had been Yeah, I do wish it had been the other way around. Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the red-headed league that day wasn't actually Grayson at all. It was Mr. Fergal, in possession of Grayson's identification. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi! Oh my! Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Grayson need an alibi? It would appear that the inspector had something to do he wished to keep secret. I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a harmless lover of fish and chips. And perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar. What, red sauce? Or brown sauce? I think perhaps we should try to move away from food analogies. Anyway. Well, no, maybe it was pepper with the chips. Oh, I think that's about off. And I think about it more. Anyway, Lord Francisque felt the need to investigate Grayson. Yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows. Here you go. Virgo, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit Huey yesterday? That's right. You asked Mr. Sholmes if he could help her to find her missing husband. Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Fergal had been taken to the hospital? Do you know which one? Ah! It's St. Sinners. I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down. That's amazing, Bruno! Found the lady's husband already! Well, suppose I have. By accident. And 10 years ago, when Mr. Fergal was the chief warden at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarnation. Incarceration. No! So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Sometimes I really don't want to grow up. There's more. 10 years after, while he was working as peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Grayson to be his stand-in. He impersonated the inspector. To impersonate Grizzly? But why? I have absolutely no idea. Jeannie was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Bruno. I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Grayson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Fergal, don't you? Back to St. Sinners, then. Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows! Oh, Iris! You're even more enthusiastic than usual today. If anyone has anything to hide, my special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight. That's water pistol? That water pistol? It's stuff full of piping hot extra special blend of mine. Oh, sorry, of a piping hot extra special blend of mine. And I'm quite sure it'll be very effective. I better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still. Let's go and see what we can find out. Yes! Maybe. Iris, about this. Oh no! What am I thinking? Here's that a shoulder dot. Grizzly. Iris, have a look at this. That's not right. I thought you were supposed to say objection or the likes when you present evidence. No, that's only in court. That's not fair. If you don't say it, then I won't look.
Objection!
Hey, that was great. Right, next. Alright, I get the message. Someone's not in the mood for looking at things. Iris, have you seen this? Your armband, the symbol of a defense lawyer in Japan. No, you showed that to me dozens of times. Oh, have I? Thing is, I just feel wrong when I don't have it on my arm, you know? Well, if you ask me, I think you should try wearing something different every now and then. Oh, really? Like what? Well, I can make something for you if you like. How about a band that squeezes your arm when the person you're talking to tells a lie? I'll keep a space free on my left arm then. I wonder. We've got stuff here! Second, burn our Hurdle's legal consultation. Oh, okay. It's the same argument. Okay. So same. I'm assuming the last episode is going to have an argument, have a unique argument then. Well, I don't think there's much we can do here. Unless we have the conversation. Yeah, the conversation what to do. Oh. See, a strong heart and the hospital room. So let's start off. Let's go see if Fan 6. He might give us information. Maybe. 2nd November, local prison, cell 1. Lord Fan 6 is reading. Look! He doesn't seem like he wants visitors, does he? But he must have noticed that we're here, surely. What do you Nipponese want? That's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? Perhaps not. Hmm? I apologize. So, what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Fancy, speaking earnestly? Oh, the fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow. That does feel very, very strange. I must say, I was impressed. Oh? Well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see. Yes. It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese, to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I suppose it's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? Okay, yeah. What's that? It's just something I was hoping to ask your opinion about. That's all. It's a serious crime for the defense to attempt to extract information from the prosecution by illegal means. I think we're having more of a defense and client relationship now, don't we? I think he's gonna budge on anything else. He wants to... Yeah, it seems to be a bit weird. You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper. Because it helped to reduce the amount of serious crimes that took place here in London. You know, there is a little bit of a there. If keeping quiet about playing the part benefits the cause, and a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything? That the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. And that was just the most recent of many attempts in your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about this. Someone is using you. Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him, or rather, expose the organization. Yeah, it's a whole organization? Oh. It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. Okay. No, the Reaper always appears to have a very accurate information about the accused in every case. But which can only mean that someone at Scotland Yard is involved. Oh. Someone at... You can't mean... Okay. It's taken me many years, but I finally identified the central figure in the Reaper's organization. Oh. Tobias Grayson. No. No! Grayson? The Reaper? So, the reason you were investigating Inspector Grayson is because... Okay. Do you intend to expose... Who's him as the Reaper? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It's a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. Okay. Wait, but there's no doubt that Grayson was a key member of that organization. I don't believe it. Are you saying that that he was behind all those awful criminals meeting their... Grayson didn't do the dirty work himself. Oh. He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassination. In order to do that without rousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Which is where Mr. Fiegel came in, posing as the inspector. Fiegel knows nothing of the Reaper. But the room he rented on Franco Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Grayson would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we certainly don't actually know who carried out the killing then. Actually, I do have a name. What? Well, if you can name the man, you need... I don't know if I get her, so I'll be back in a bit. All right, I'm back. False alarm. Just something else. Okay. Well, if you name the man, you have to treat Danny the Reaper already then. Or if I can name the woman. Oh, she's a young woman by the name of Asin. Ashasin. Wait, what? Sin? Miss Asinsin. The true name of a terrifying killer I know all too well. Only too well. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then, when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan fiction. The mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small beach summer hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey? Oh. I think I get it. Mr. Naru, perhaps this isn't the place to discuss. No. No, of course not. Can't mention it here. Actually, she killed Dr. John H. Wilson. Perhaps Iris doesn't know it, and it's very likely that the man was her father. Assassin. I should have father know once! Yes, I agree. Kazuma, is it? Isn't it Kazuma Asuki? He says he's a friend of yours. My best friend. He's the whole reason I got to come to Great Britain. It was all on his merits. Okay. I have nothing but respect for him. Yes, I understand that only the best students are selected for such opportunities. And I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings the other day. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminds me of his father. Oh. In fact, his flawless performance very much. Oh yeah. Michizuki, the professor. It's true that the aristocrat at the time was the numerous great society of the province. Right. Okay, ish. Oh. They're using their power with the common man as pawns in political, in economics, and war. In many ways, Asugi was carrying out a clinker of society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. I see. But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Hint Van Seek was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did the damn Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? Here's the delay. In spite of having once saved mine. Saved your life? How did that happen? It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. I think Van Seek had already been killed at this point then. Genshin and I were walking down some back street at the late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep! You're coming with us! We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces skewered by crevice. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I've been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Seek's alright. We got him. I couldn't hear them mumbling amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. Just when I thought my time had come. To let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me. It was Usogi's voice. Just a whisper in my ear. After that, I don't exactly remember what happened. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin laid on the cobble street. Blood seemed sleeping from his left hand. He shielded me. 2 days later, they arrested him. On suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever. The Professor. How awful for you. All at once, I lost the brother I revered and a foreigner friend I held in such high regards. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Seeks. That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me. The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Grayson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are. I still can't quite believe that Grayson was essentially the Reaper. Even assassinated orders suggested being Baren. Senator Naruhodo, let's go and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie! Hooray! Yes, alright. Let's head back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then. Anuka. Okay. 2nd November. Great Waterloo Hotel, Foley. I thought yesterday, and I thought again today. This place is so princely. So, well, guess, but I have a feeling. Do you think the same? You'll think the same tomorrow too. Okay. My tea has a finer fragments than whatever they are serving in the tea room here, wouldn't you say? Okay, I think it's... Ah, look who we have. This is an unexpected pleasure. Ah! Father! Oh, this is your daddy, Susie? Hi, lovely. Double check, see if this how much the way is going. What a charming young lady. And you are? Ah, really? So you're the other defensor of Herlock Jones, aren't you? That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service. Okay, that actually is fine. The weirdness on my end, yeah, I guess. Anyway, hey, Susie's been such a wonderful friend to have to me over the last year, you know. So really, just any PS2 old consoles are gonna have a notable delay. Fair enough. Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with very much interest. Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father. Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explaining what that bright look in your eyes. You wouldn't be smiling so early if you knew just how bright she is. Believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to serve from the gallery. After I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was truly essentially... It was a truly essentially performance. Exceptionally performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Though I'm fairly sure you omitted by Cosmo on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. Really? Didn't miss a step against Asogi. And we all know how capable he is. Really? To matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year here is quite extraordinary. It's very kind of you to say so. And really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I've been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Mr. Naruhodo. I trust you haven't forgotten. Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you? But first, we have something to report, Father. Of course, of course. Shall we take tea while we discuss matters further? I wonder where Judge Jinkoku has gotten to. Got a chat. Look at this, Professor Mikitaba. Cosmos armband. He was wearing that when he left for Great Britain. I'm curious. It does strike me at all. Sorry, it does strike me at all as odd to see you wearing it. Sorry, it doesn't strike me at all as. Let me try that again. How curious. It doesn't strike me at all as odd to see you wearing it. It rather suits you. Oh. Are you intending to return it to him? Well, yes. I mean, it has his name on it. Now that we found out he's alive, it doesn't make sense for me to keep it. Oh no. Yeah. Well, if you ask me, I think Hansen would be delighted to see you wearing it. Well, I feel an honor if that were true. Professor, thank you for this letter of introduction. You're welcome. Only too pleased to help if I can. The words Easterners and Westerners mean nothing, really. If you spend time to get to know people, it will soon become apparent that we're all just humans at the end of the day. It's far more like than most will admit. It would be wonderful if everybody saw it that way. Sadly, not everyone can. We all have our feelings, though. As I said, we're all human. I see now why he's such a respected scholar. He has magnanimous spirit. Okay. Nothing, okay. Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Valley? I've heard rumors. Some members of Jittery explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after the case when the visiting students were already home. Lord Van Six who was in the dock today. That was Brock, the younger brother of Clint Van Six, I believe. That's right, and he'd known for London as the Reaper, as you heard, but the truth is, it wasn't him behind all this mysterious death, it was someone else. I see. What you're saying is, there's been a professional killer at work here. Exactly. Someone by the name of Assassin, in fact. I beg your pardon? Did you just say Assassin? Do you mean that Jessamine Barrettman, who was responsible for killing my good friend? Oh no, a friend of yours was killed? Professor Mikitaba, I think perhaps we should discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor's talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. That's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this anyway. Ah, I just remembered something. Biscuits! This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits. That was rather out of the blue. He's doing this deliberately. I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, should they come to you, Iris? Oh yes! You'll just try to leave me behind. So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, isn't she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of those adventure stories starring the Great Detective shows. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's John H. Wilson. Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Father? Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time here in London. That's why I was keen to cooperate and... Sorry. Reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial University 4 years ago. Why am I swearing over those words? Some sermons today. That he was murdered last year. Just a mean Baret. Why would the Hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case. But it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke of his family. About his family, sorry. So I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I can say with some certainty that he was never the Great Detective's partner. So, it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes. We're back! With cinnamon biscuits! Oh, they smell delicious, Iris. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here, don't you, Susie? Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris. I haven't seen Judge Jinkoku for a while, have you? Guilty! Oh. But that guilty is still ringing in my ears. No, now that you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he's gone to explore the great exhibition. That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Shinkoku having once been in the dock himself. Ah yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial. A closed trial of Kazuma's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand. Oh my! He also said something contemporaneous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. Oh dear. Oh, it's really easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. Thank goodness. Ah yes, talking of Sanshiro. I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Please. Ooh, what a lovely picture. It certainly seems to show we've arrived in Britain. Where has been added? None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we? Can I examine it? Okay, it's just another one. Quality. No, that's so true. So, you mentioned the favor that you'd like to ask me. Well, this fearful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it will be over before long. But when is it? But when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan. Want me to do... What? Father? What's the meaning of this? Now, Susano, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's resistance it's in its infantry, especially when it comes to defense. Oh, you mean the Supreme Court of Judicial is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really, quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I've read all Susano's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs. So, you'll be leaving then, Bruno? Then, what am I supposed to do, Father? You came here to serve as a Sogi's judicial assistant. Yes, she's supposed to be Cosmo's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with his situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susano. And I trust your judgment. In this matter also. Father? Please, the power of you. Don't look so downcast. It's mere a suggestion, you understand. I hope. If I'm honest. But I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it. And come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yes. Alright. You won't leave, will you, Bruno? Thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe be Cosmo's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so... where does that leave me? Well, if you excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about assassin. Of course, Father. Thank you. I'm looking forward to next month's installment, Miss Wilson. Oh good, and please, do come to Baker Street sometimes, won't you? We'd love to entertain you. I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home. You know, Asuma-san has always meant a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this. Yes, no doubt. Assassin. Of course, it's so obvious. Why? How could I have neglected to consider the possibilities before now? Ah! Mr. Sholmes! Yui! Where have you been? Why, I joined you off for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question. I didn't notice you at all. No matter, no matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes. I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Han? You mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who? Well, my father has just left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself. I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes. There's not a moment to lose! I kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to see the scent. I will, but what is it? No questions this time, you please, Mr. Sano. All we can do is pray that for once, my deductions are airy. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Sholmes? Which isn't exactly. Now then! You may be surprised to learn that I am a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind the tease and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. If that's what joining us for tea meant. I leave the sending of this to your hands then, my dear fellows. Oh, he's gone. But wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace. And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind too. I must catch up with father at the telegram office at once. And I'll run and call a cab straight away. And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Sholmes' bill. Oh, it's not even that. Second November, room on Friendship Street. I never imagined this little figurine would turn out to be a watch winding key. I suppose it's a police, because the pocket watch was a gift from Scotland Yard. It seems there was so much to Inspector Grayson than we ever realized. He's clearly a brilliant man. It's the fish and chips that threw us off. I feel as though it ruined this image. I really don't think we should blame one of Britain's staple cuisines. But think about it. Imagine if it was Mr. Sholmes. How would you feel instead of that old bar pipe that's always in his hand? Mr. Sholmes had a bag of chips. Rather disappointed, if I'm honest. Exactly. Using the Commonwealth's timber device. I'm genius, I must say. Yes, the couple arranged it so firecracker would be set up at 5 o'clock and then left. So that a large bang was heard at the precise moment Lord Francisque arrived, yes? If only he hadn't picked up that gun from the floor. Something you probably told yourself once upon a time, I imagine. Yes, I've learned that lesson by bitter experience. I would have turned and run a mile for sure. Which may not have done you any favors either. This revolver. Just who does it belong to? Well, we know it's a type issued to members of the police force and judiciary. But Grayson's own gun was found on his person. Of course, Longpan 6 has admitted to losing his firearm, which he was issued. Such absent-mindedness. Not dismissal to you, Mr. Naruhodo. It's similar to you, Mr. Naruhodo, sorry. I'm starting to think the cold, hard prosecutor and I could become friends after all. Then I wish you every success. Catches your eye as soon as you enter the room, doesn't it? It's such a bright color, it certainly makes an impression, yes. They can't possibly commit any crimes, can they? I mean, redheads stand out like a sore thumb. I'm afraid with our jet black Japanese hair, we sounded almost as much here in London. I suppose that's true. You mustn't think of committing any crimes, Mr. Naruhodo. I wasn't! Photograph of Miss Fargo. Realizing the identity of this lady was a very great clue to exposing Mr. Gasa's true identity. He obviously loves his wife very dearly. Which is why he felt he couldn't tell her the truth. Transformation was incredible, wasn't it? Just from that big twisted lip. Yes, he went to extraordinary efforts to play the part of Hugo very convincingly. Though, doesn't really seem like it was much of an effort to me. Now that you mention it, I have to agree. It's almost as if that was Mr. Virgo's true character. People really are very hard to fathom sometimes. These are details of cases stretching back over 10 years on this notice board. Yes, a history of Lord Fan 6 defeats in court. I don't think that's an appropriate description. Although, when you consider everything on the board, it's certainly true. That all these people had a background of dubious dealings. And in the end, of course, the board itself concealed the inspector's own death. Oh my. It really doesn't bear thinking about. I think that's done already. Oh, wait, we said. Turns out that Grayson didn't actually die here at all. Where on earth could he have been killed? Well, one way or another, we must find out, for the inspector's sake. No. You look awfully pale again today, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry. When I start thinking about it through, I conjecture up some horrible images in my mind. Your imagination is the culprit here, then. Most certainly guilty. That's us done. Now let's go here. Then Stronghorn. 2nd November. St. Sinners Hospital Ward 3. This is the ward Mr. Fergal was brought, apparently. Oh, sorry. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Ah! Lawyer. Hello again. You feeling better now, Mr. Froggle? Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago too. Just missed him. Oh, Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same to you. He was very apologetic. The truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please, don't think like that. Keeping that from Eva, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to see myself as well. I mean, about your dismissal. Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Grayson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as a stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. Perhaps Grayson knew exactly what had become of Mr. all along then. I'm sure this is just a start for 10 years of lies and deceptions, but... It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me! I swear it's true! Oh, Miss Virgo. I'm sure you'd rather not dread off even more from your past at this time, but... If possible, would you tell us exactly what really happened? I need to get this all off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done. This news got me out before, actually. I suppose there's some sort of slogan for the ward. A cheerful welcome message, perhaps? Let's see. Hey with good cheers, leave with good cheer. Well, look at that! You respond, Mrs. Sano. It's full of cheer. I wonder how many discharged patients paint medical pills with good cheer, though. Once I had to have a very painful injection where I fell ill with a cold. I felt awful already. Why did I have to suffer the sting of the injection as well as the bill? I yelled at the doctor. Oh dear, what terrible treatment. These must be the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Tendency to jump out from windows. Remember to place cushion at the fall inside. Aren't we a story up from the ground here? Oh dear, poor Miss Virgo. I can't help feeling that there's a better solution than that. Sorry, that was I can't help feeling that a better solution to the problem than that there's a better solution to the problem than a cushion, though. Finding someone you lost isn't always a happy experience, it turns out. Pursuing the truth can be a fair dark business sometimes, can't it? Yes, I'm afraid it can. There's all sorts of these. There are all sorts of medicines in this cabinet. Look, I'm not sure if it's safe to leave them in reach of everyone like this. Yes, you're right. I can imagine if you package, you might try some of the pills. Well, at least there needs to be a little lock to secure the cabin doors. I don't imagine that would stop you if you were hungry. I worry that you break the lock. Hunger doesn't turn me into a criminal, you know, Mrs. Sano. There's a lot of balls in that there, aren't there? You think it's safe to keep them there? If you're a patient here, I'm sure you take some medicine by mistake when you were half asleep. That is a worry, but at least the cabinet has a lock, even if only a flimsy-looking one. Oh, I've no doubt you managed to unlock that somehow while you were half asleep as well. There's limited even to what I can do when I'm half asleep, you know, Mrs. Sano. Ah, patient treatment notes. What did they say, I wonder? Endless publishing. I suppose that's referring to the patient in his bed. I think so. And until Mr. Virgo is a little more stable... ogling, sorry. It's probably just as well that he has a kindly person in the neighboring bed. The endlessly part is a bit worrying though, isn't it? I mean... what if Mr. Virgo suddenly declared that he'd like to take a trip out the window? Would this endlessly patient simply obliging? This endlessly obliging patient simply open an F for him and say, "Be my guest." Let's check with the doctor later. Oh look, a pair of crutches. Just before we came to Britain, I hadn't realized they were used here as well. I imagined they were imported from Japan from Great Britain here in the first place. Oh, no one in all Japan broke a leg before their arrival? Anyway, the sight of these things doesn't bring back good memories for me. Oh dear, did you injure yourself once and need to use some? When I was little, I thought it looked fun, so I borrowed a pair to play with. But then I slipped and sprained my ankle. I see. They contain powerful magic, these wooden staffs. Power to heal, and the power to harm. I think a certain cheeky boy managed to cause the harm all by himself. Inspector Grayson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper's marks, yes. It was when he had carried out those investigations. I would take his identification and impersonate him. He pretended to be an inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf. Oh no, never! A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specific location and make a little hoo-ha. And something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a Detective Court Grayson was here. So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident. Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on live stream for the Red Hit League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector identification around and I was very vocal about my presence. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed frosters. Yes, so you wouldn't always make a point of showing Grayson's identification and generally being loud. That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though. Well, as you know, I suffered the bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. By returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged me in the Fencer Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. It was at midnight on 17th of June 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it? Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect the plan of the escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan that was. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. Coffin into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of the condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin and immediately buried at the Logate Cemetery just behind the prison. The chief warden first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I waited at the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork having checked the coffin and nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No! I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was already taken from the main gates and deposited in Logate Cemetery. Certainly, there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long. In the early hours following the burial, someone dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened at Logate Cemetery that night, I wonder? I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty was two things. Asoka couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from someone within the prison. Sorry, was it somebody working in the prison? And that somebody was not me. Obviously, you knew the man then. Professor, I mean? Genshin Sogi? Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I have with him, the man, was short, obviously. I've had a trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary. They called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? The time of death, it was a time of delicate diplomacy, when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warden, I oversaw his short stay in the cell until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman, a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he had done. Like, asked him one day. Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives you were taken. Were you really aristocracy whose lives were taken? Were you really responsible? I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. The following day, the closed trial took place. The verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That night, when I was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The Last Will and Testament. Genshin Sugi. As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cell when I looked into Asogi's, and I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah! His last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hastily shoved it behind his back. He hurriedly shoved it behind his back. Why did you find that so unusual? Is it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true. But there were special conditions to Sogi's incarnation, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designated for condemned inmates. He was allowed to keep his personal facts with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy. But at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that were determined that his final day shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable. And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed? That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing material. Specifically, no pen or paper. So, he was prevented from leaving any written records of what had happened to him? Yes. That was the long and short of it. I have no idea where he taken that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As he said, he hid the paper behind his back and then he pleaded with me. Why did you just hide behind your back? Please, please, turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. Alright then. What's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing and let him keep his will. But then later, it seemed to vanish without a trace. What? What do you mean, it vanished? It would seem that isn't the story of this mysterious will. I was the only person who saw Soki's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Soki's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warden gathered up Soki's possessions that were in his cell. They were sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. The poor Cosmo-sama. And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found in his personal effects? The will, I mean? That's right. Though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Cadden was livid. He was screaming. It kinda does a player completely! That doesn't quite make sense though, does it? In what way? Well, we understood that only Mr. Fergal was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prisoner governor know to look for it? Oh yes, you're right! Really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as well. What he said was the Asogi Papers. The Asogi Papers? I really can't tell you anything of that of the sequence events. Sequential. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal. And the way you blocked it from your memory. I've forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with me, Mr. Fergal. We're very grateful. I'm afraid that's really... Sorry, there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evan will be here shortly. So I do hope I don't appear rude, but... No, not at all. Thank you again. But what will be becoming now? Well, personally, a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. I'm so sorry. Don't, babe, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Fergal. Ah! Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh? Yes. What is it? The Asogi Papers. I'd be very grateful if you make no mention of this thing, of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Soki penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder. Perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know about the documents that Cosmo's father left behind. Hey, Mr. Fergal's governor! Let me know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison. Well, at least he seems to be on the mend. You know, his disguise to Mr. Gossip really was quite masterful, wasn't it? I can't remember anything about it except for that floppy lip. I imagine not even his wife would have recognized him. Perhaps, but did he really have to take it quite so far? Well, to Barclay Prison we go! I took the long way. 2nd November, Barclay Prison Governor Office. Oh, back again, are ya? Oh, yes, hello. I heard all about your investigations. I read the reports just now. You found them, eh, Urgle? Yes, luckily. Well, anywho, the lollies that doesn't really work here anymore. So your case about what has not to do with Barkley. I would have liked you to get the wrong idea about that. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes. Mr. Farkle stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. Aye, Kimmer. You came very well. So, how about a wee handcuff biscuit? Oh, very like little handcuffs. And hard as iron too. So, what's brought you down here today? Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might be a document that disappeared from Genshin Soki's cell. I think it was called the Soki Papers or something. Oh, the mood changed quickly. Did I know say the racing stuff is not to do with that might happen to Barclay. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not bother about with relevant details. This expression changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. That murderous botched execution and that whole miserable escape. They're Barclay's starkest orders. Aye, a shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Seavith, and my chief warden at the time, Fergal, who was in charge of the whole affair. Mr. Fergal said he didn't know anything about it. The rascal wouldn't have said otherwise, eh? More handcuffs? Oh, how can I say no? You can never have too much iron in your dad. When Mr. Fergal was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what happened, he was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I didn't like to say, but that's just Fergal trying to get good of it. But do you think he wouldn't have jumped out from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. You wouldn't have said otherwise, so would you? Of course. I kinda shun all responsibility himself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's probably anyone that can what went on at the time now. We got it. Since having been murdered and Dr. Sue forbidden from having any visitors. No visitors. Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. I the winning dream was sending you packing with a kibba. Yeah, take a handcuff or two. Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. We want to become an addict. I suppose if there's anybody who might still can about what happened back then, it'd be the last from the forensic division, Maria Gory. Maria Gory? Aye, Siva's daughter. She didn't. You have no more, just the one. But the way better than following her ma's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah! Mama, what is this? What? Where does she sprang from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Her fifth daughter, Maria Gore. You were talking to her. So, she's Dr. Seth's daughter. But her semen is gory? Gory? Aye. There's some family history, I'm sure, but don't even ken the ins and outs about it. He grew up watching her ma from working with the ba. These are the folks who died in strange circumstances. And decided to do the same with her own life. I can't understand it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Grayson's auto spy, I believe. Right. And the corn responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lads, they always love her ma stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral much as a lullaby. Well then, perhaps her mother might have told her about the old spy from the case 10 years ago. I saw there'd be a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. You really depicted Miss Orsi herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm not happy about any part of this. It took years for others to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you get up the slally. Stop asking pointless questions. Sorry. Don't like dreading up these painful memories for everyone. Can you? Don't just stay away, no? Leave me alone and don't need to come back here, eh? How'd you come to ken about that, laddie? There's not many folks even here in the prison who's heard of those papers. Ah, well, I can't tell him as Virgil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers were actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professors, or rather, Genshin and Sogi. Aye, that's right. Go around forums, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, they mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? It was Nuro. You're off the half-cocked there. I think you didn't get your facts. Didn't quite get your facts straight. It was down in the cell. Exactly where it should have been. Oh. Not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wee go around there. I'm sure I can find it. Aye, here you are. See? The last will and testament of Genshin Sogi, written with a choreographic brush. Of course, I can't even read a word of those shiny squiggles. But I mind that says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Sogi papers? Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Sogi. No doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all this drama showed of that slut instead of an execution, we sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it. I think we all make a record of this, Mr. Naharu, just in case. Well, we have these Suki papers. One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Rahoro. Oh, yes? Those papers are not to do, have not to do with Raisin's death. I prefer it if you did make no mention of them outside this office. Or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest level of our government. I understand. Last small testament of the Genshin Sugi. I, Genshin Sugi, hereby request upon my death any and all material possessions of belonging to me in London to be delivered to my son, Kazuma Sugi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Something. Nothing. All right. We're here. No, he's right. We're down here. The only other place I guess we haven't gone to is Lord Chief Justice's office. I'm pretty sure we'll... Never mind. I was going to say what we're supposed to do here, but apparently not. 2nd November, British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. No arguments, Prosecutor Sogi. You will continue the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear? Perfectly. It's Kazuma-san. Fine Lord Strongheart, that's the sound of it. He never knew when to back down. Under my knife, Sogi. My lord. Kazuma. He left without saying a word. Yes, what are you doing here? Oh, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. I wanted Fan 6 trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Soki's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries? As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes and 41 seconds, 42, 43, 44. We must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruto. And a miraculous, not even 5 minutes. Anyway, I can't let this man's obsession, obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Prosecutor Suki believe that Lord Fan 6 is the Reaper? I would know. It was 10 years ago, in that fateful close trial, that Lord Fan 6 made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. That's awful! The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days. Yes, let me see. He died at a rock slide at his place of work, I believe. Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. And people believe Lord Fan 6 was responsible. He was brought to the trial himself, but it shows to have been an accident. He must have had a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths were continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances. potentially at the hands of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences. But the Reaper's true that he may well be revealed by the trial. This trial. And the impact that the revelations have on the British public cannot be understated. Oh, I'm getting bad today. Is that why it's a closed trial? Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial in 10 years. But the last one was the professor's trial against Shinsugi. Correct. Actually, we heard that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. And seeks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later, but the son of the man Van Seek has condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. They do say that what goes around comes around. However, it seems that the new young prosecutor is harboring some other ulterior motives as well. Kazuma is? I like my organization to run smoothly, in the exact manner that I prescribed. And with the giant clock in here and the birds, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. And the birds must fly in perfect sync. Ah. So that's what this gear... So that's what all these gears are about in here. The man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine. I will be forced to take steps. What? What do you mean? Not something with which you need concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours. Oh my! It's a long time. And I hold you entirely responsible. Even though we were actually managed to fit everything in not even 5 minutes. Into not even 5 minutes. I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asugi. Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside the courtroom is generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go. You'll find him in his office. Oh, thank you. Let's go and see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo. Asuma is my best friend in the world, but I'm really not all that sure I know how to talk to him at this moment. Look how, where is it? The bomb, isn't it? Yep. Second November, prosecutor's office. Hey, the table's changed. So this is the office of Prosecutor Asugi. Now, is it? Tasso-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel the floor Japanese style in that dark corner. It's his habit to sit his cell whenever he's working. Kazuma. I followed me long before you paid me a visit, Runasaka. Okay. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you had all the markings of a great defense lawyer? Well, I always believed that you fulfilled your dreams of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama. I'm truly happy for you. And I'm truly thankful for you, Jujutsu Station Mikutaba. Rinosuke, I always thought it'd be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisioned it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time here in London. About how Susanna-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jinkoku. And about what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I have no choice. Why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Rinusaka Naruhodo. There's Lord Fanseek's incredibly stylish desk. It's not my style, though. No, I noticed you've been working at that little table on the floor, kneeling down Sessa style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Fanseek's when I first saw it. I find it the most comfortable way to work. I can't do it. After a couple of minutes of sitting with my legs full under me, it starts to go a little tingly. Don't exaggerate, Rinusaka. We both know you can't even manage a minute. Ouch. Lord Fanseek's fine collection of hollow chalices and bottles, all neatly lined up. Yes, he's extremely particular about that. He has a strict regime for everything, sorry. From the storage of the cases to the bottling of their contents. Gosh, you must be having a really tough time of being his apprentice. Actually, no. Oh? He's so particular about it all. He refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact. Talk about weird. What the? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh yes, I realized that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you haven't thought of before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Do you know who the man in the portrait is? Why would I? What? The Lord Fanseek's apprentice? Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea of the man that created... Oh, sorry, I wouldn't have the first idea what the man that created his office with. What? You disturbed the bats, didn't you? Fitting companions for Lord Fanseek's, wouldn't you say? Actually,
I've seen things flying around Lord Strongheart's office too. Gnomes, I think. Perhaps you have to like birds to attain rank of judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing. Sorry. Just thinking out loud. Cast floors to ceiling. Just like the last time you were here. Hollow barrels, I suppose. They are arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week, they're all taken out and put back in order. What? Every week? Lower fan Six can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide. That's the trouble. Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge. Actually, no. Oh? He considers the task too important to entrust to anyone else. He does entirely on his own. He does. So he's a barrel laugh here and in court then. I get it. This is your armband. Actually, I think it's yours now. Sorry? You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. Now, you've chosen to take that path in life. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you. Or more proud. Kazuma. So you keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a prosecutor now. That armband would mean nothing, would have no meaning for me. Well, if you're sure, thank you, my friend. I'm gonna rest this. So what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors discuss evidence, the courtroom. It seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend always... Yeah, I get the feeling my friend's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Okay. Okay, we're just gonna have to talk to Soki then. It's getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Burra. When we were heading across the ocean from Japan to Great Britain, when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I woke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posse of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed upon the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes. I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just a voice in my head. You have something you have to do. Something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that on a huge steamboat and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship.
I had no idea of the situation, but I did have a feeling that this was in some way my last chance. I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city. So I could plan my onwards journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smell. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I escaped as a dead man, with nothing but my clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I presume? That's right. And on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deck hand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after cleaning the sports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity to pursuit of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memories and had initially nothing to his name. He still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So how'd you end up becoming Lord Van Steek's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. See, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend the meeting. And that's when the second feather might kick into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Endeavour. Yes, I did. Ever since I first met you at Yumi, you talked about your dream. Mark my words, Ryunosaki. I will be chosen as the visiting student. I'll make my way to Great Britain someday. Do you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It was my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. Unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikutaba, your father, Susano-san. Oh my. Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yumi. I would be forever in his debt. Nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. That one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, but I opened it assuming it was from an acquaintance of my father. When I read in that letter, changed my entire life. Sorry, what I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer
or accuse the Asogi name. Oh no! As I saw that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry you have to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment that was always going to be a problem. But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I've ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him. He'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jinkoku. Ah, the other President Jin. He faltered for a brief moment, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily, but recovering his pose. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. Truth about my father, Genshin Usogi. I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. What we've learned today in course turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Rinasaki Naruhodo. Lord Fan 6 isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself. But it turns out that Inspector Grayson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activities all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Baron von Six is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be the mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No! He was merely seeking justice. That justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. That's the law. The law that is just a tool that those who use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. Maybe we have to present something. Just came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Grayson's autopsy report. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped on scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothers me too. My pet visited the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible was there, but I got a name with Dr. Gordy. If it wouldn't trouble you, Cosmo-san, if Emira's like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Logate Cemetery. I bark like prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, don't you? Do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated, and robbed of his life. Asuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Rinosaka, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguard the soul of the Asoki clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karama is said to have been forged by a master swordsman during the Sengoku Warring State period. I came from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're chill with the old block, I say. This blade, Harama, is a symbol of the Asoki clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Harama? That was something formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had the sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again too. And that, it's all thanks to you. It was an honor. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Rinosaki. I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Fan's Sikhs given what happened. But the fact is, those events and this case are, well, unrelated. Is that what you want to say? How could you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper. And it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove it in court tomorrow, as much in court tomorrow as ever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you'll do what you have to do as a lawyer. But I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I wouldn't expect nothing less. Till tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey. Didn't look out, but I'm gonna... Do we have time? I won't stretch it. We'll wrap it up for here. So yeah, we'll just wrap it up for this point. I'll wrap things up here now. I hope you all have a good day. I hope it's a good week. We'll continue Monday, and I'm actually debating what to do tomorrow if we're seeing this a bit early. So if you watch this on the Wednesday, I don't know, maybe
Germany or some Monster Hunter, or I will be going, or I'll be sitting over for you just for the moment, because I'm still doing some preparations and that. We'll just see how things go. But with that being said, I hope you have a good day, hope you have a good week, and I will see you all next time. Bye!